I used to give some pretty poor advice to help people with their rounded shoulders or a head in the neck that protrude forwards. And honestly, I'm a little embarrassed about it because really what I was teaching was just a band-aid solution and it wasn't addressing the root cause, and it could actually cause more issues down the line. And ultimately, the tip was to bring the rib cage up and to just kind of flare it up like this with no other instruction. Now, sure, if we have rounded shoulders like this and our head and our neck protrude forwards, this can be caused from a depressed sternum. But really, when we have a depressed sternum, all the muscles in the front of the chest, the fascia that ties into the sternum, gets so tight and dense that it locks us in this position. So if I'm just teaching somebody to lift their rib cage up like this, they don't have the actual relative motions and they can't disassociate between the rib cage and different areas of the spine to do this properly without just orienting the rib cage. So let me show a visual. If I am down like this, my shoulders are rounded. If I bring my rib cage up, sure, they're in more of a neutral, we'll call it proper alignment. But let's give shoulder internal rotation as an example. Let's say this is perfect, neutral alignment within my rib cage. And this is how much shoulder internal rotation space I have available. Well, if we have a lack of shoulder internal rotation space, what's happening is our sternum is just going to depress like this to find more range of motion, more internal rotation space at the shoulder, but this is through a compensation. So all I said was, okay, well, let's just come back up. And now let's say that someone had a lack of external rotation. It's the same thing. If I'm depressed like this, and this is the amount of external rotation space I have, but I say, well, lift the rib cage up, I just gained 20, 30 degrees of shoulder external rotation. So really, the tip here isn't effective because it's causing too much extension in the back, which is going to cause too much compression in the back. It can cause the ribs to flare. And then when our ribs are flared, that's usually paired with an anterior pelvic tilt, then our diaphragm is going to descend and stay descended. So we're really just breathing through here. But we have to understand that our lungs are in our rib cage. We shouldn't just be belly breathing. We need to be able to expand the entire rib cage in all directions for maximal expansion and movement within the rib cage, the shoulders, the head, and the neck. So ultimately, the fix here is to, yes, keep these low ribs down, but now bring space and breath into the front chest wall. And now we don't want to initiate this just from the neck or the upper chest. There's a big difference between breathing through the neck and that area and breathing through your diaphragm. For example, breathing through the neck would be more of like a kind of breath compared to initiating it from the diaphragm and consciously bringing it up into the chest wall. So I'm going to be showing you a fascia release position to decompress this area, but then exercises to bias expansion into this area to help with our shoulder positioning, our rib cage positioning, and also to help let the head and the neck sit into more of a neutral alignment. So now that I'm outside getting absolutely hammered by the sun, getting a sunburn while also hardly being able to see, I'm going to be showing you these positions and exercises to address this. So all you need is a rolled up towel or a block from Block Therapy for this first position, but you'll need a rolled up towel for a second exercise that we'll be doing. So to get started, we're going to have the rolled up towel compacted nice and tightly because we want it pretty dense here to decompress this area. Just slowly bring your sternum directly onto the towel. And now I want you to start by just relaxing and connecting to your breath. So as you inhale, feel the diaphragm and the rib cage starting to expand. Don't have to bring too much awareness into this, but just enough awareness that you're breathing through the diaphragm. And I want you to then exhale and relax. We're building pressure in this area, staying here for a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes to create an effective release in the sternum where all of this connective tissue, fascia, muscles connect onto the sternum that's really rounded and pulling the shoulders forwards. So once you settle in and you spent about a minute or so here, then you can very slowly start twisting. When we start to twist, this is creating more of a grip, or at least we're mimicking the way our tissue grips to more effectively release the fascia from the sternum. So let's spend about a minute or so here. Once you've done so, come back to neutral, and then we're gonna very slowly, I want you to move even slower than I'm demonstrating here, over to the left side. Stay here for a minute. You're gonna feel some pain. You might feel some tension, some discomfort. That's okay. But then when you come back to neutral, I want you to take a few breaths and consciously bring your breath, if you can, this is a little bit more advanced, into the upper rib cage. I'm going to be showing exercises to do this in a second, but this will just help to create more expansion in the front and even the back part of the rib cage to create more of a release. And this is just what a couple breaths looks like. You might be able to see my entire rib cage, upper rib cage was expanding there. So once you spent a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes, nice and slow, take your time, exhale up and out of this position. If you like this approach of fascia decompression and you felt a release in that chest and you want more of a full body approach to be able to move more effectively and just feel amazing, then you can check out our block therapy starter package, and I'll have that linked below. Now we're going to move into a position where we're going to be using the towel, and we're going to have this directly on the low ribs. So I'm going to explain this as I get in. So have the towel horizontal now, but I want you to locate these low ribs here, and that's where the towel is going to be. So directly under the pecs. So I'm in this position here. Now I want you to feel the inner elbow and your hand making contact with the floor. And what we're doing here, let's start with just a neutral alignment where we're just kind of in a relaxed neck. I don't want you to be looking straight down. Have that natural curvature in your neck. And now as we are keeping these low ribs down, we want to create space between the low ribs and they call them the bucket handle ribs, so that we can create this space and then bring the breath into this area. So all we're going to do is very slowly push with the forearms, the elbow, the hand into the floor, keeping those low ribs down the entire time. At any time you feel like they're coming off, then restart and just reconnect. And we're just gently creating this separation here. And now we're making this more susceptible for us to bias expansion in the front part of our rib cage. So now I want you to exhale fully. Feel your side abs engage just slightly and hold that down. That's going to hold those low ribs down. But now we want to bring some of our breath into the front chest wall. So bring some of your awareness and just a soft, slow inhale through the nose. Bring the tongue to the roof of your mouth. And you'll feel some expansion into the front chest wall. Now, you might not feel that right off of the bat, but start practicing this, and this might take some time, but you will notice a change. Now, to bring this all together, we're bringing those low ribs down, creating slight extension in the spine, but not too much. We're pushing into the ground slightly with the arms, natural curvature in the spine, just gazing ahead. And now let's exhale fully, lock those low ribs down. Inhale nice and slow through the nose. Don't initiate this through the neck or the upper chest. We're initiating this from the diaphragm and then bringing the air into that chest, allowing our lungs to expand into this area. Now, what I would recommend is doing a minimum 8 to 10 breaths like that, 2 to 3 sets before moving on to this next exercise. And that's really going to help bring those ribs down and expansion into this area. For this next exercise, let's get on our back like this, and let's get in this hook lying position so our knees are bent and our feet are flat on the floor. Now I want you to feel the inner heel and the ball of the big toe making contact in the floor so that we can actually push into the floor slightly to create a little bit more of this posterior pelvic alignment. Now, the reason why we want to do that is because generally, if we are too extended or our pelvis is off, this is going to cause a chain reaction up the chain into the rib cage, the shoulders, the head, and the neck. So just very gently, I want you to push with those 2 foot contacts and then you're going to feel that pelvis coming back slightly. Now, don't lose the outside of your foot. Just make your focus the ball, the big toe, and the inner heel. Now, I want you to reach your hands up towards the sky, the ceiling, for me, the sky, and I want your palms facing your feet. This is going to help close off the back just a little bit more so that we can bias more expansion into the front part of the rib cage. Now let's exhale fully. Get all of that air out. Feel these side abs engaging. Make sure you're reaching, but not so much that you're jarring yourself forwards. Keep that neck relaxed the entire time. Now, as those side abs are just very slightly engaged to hold those low ribs down, I want you to slowly and gently inhale and just feel the upper ribs are starting to expand. So again, exhale. And now inhale and feel the upper ribs are starting to expand. Now, as a progression, as we're still reaching, just very slowly and slightly, bring the arms more overhead. We're doing the same thing, just protracting the shoulder blades, palm facing towards the feet. And then we're just going to like a few inches at a time. I don't want you just to skip and then you're going to extend your spine to get this range of motion. We're creating more true relative motion in the shoulders and in the rib cage and the spine. So then hold each position for a few breaths as you move it 1 inch at a time. And I wouldn't come much further than this. This is a great starting point. As you improve and you create more expansion here, the more shoulder range of motion we will gain. So what we're going to be doing is hold this for 2 to 3 breaths. Then we're going to be moving a few inches, hold that for 2 to 3 breaths, and then go to about 3 to 4 different ranges and hold that and repeat that about 2 to 3 times. Now, a big key thing is we don't want to create too much extension in the spine when we do this. We want to keep those low ribs down and make sure that you're pushing through those points of contact with the foot to neutralize that pelvis. Now that the sun and I can see for the routine breakdown, we start off with the sternum position, that fascia release position. Spend 3 to 5 minutes there before moving on to the next exercise. For exercise 2, we're holding that for about 8 to 10 full breaths and do about 2 to 3 sets before moving on to the last exercise. Now for that last one, it's a little bit different. We're going to be reaching in those 3 to 4 different ranges. Hold each range for about 2 to 3 breaths. And then once you've done a complete cycle, do about 2 to 3 sets. Now you can perform this entire routine multiple times a week. Some people might even want to be doing this daily. So let me know in the comments below if this is helping you out, if you're feeling a release and a change, and make sure that you subscribe. It really helps me out, helps out the channel. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next video.